Last speaker is Senator Nigel Scullion.
Thank you very much, and what an exciting day. I would normally start out by, as I will now, acknowledging traditional owners of country, both past and present. Many times, wherever you are around Australia, whether it's Jenny Macklin, whether it's Warren Snowden, whether it's our Prime Minister, that is a way of life for us now. It's a way of life for us now because there were some very courageous people in 1963 from Yirrkala that changed the way that we did business as Australians. And I'd like to reflect on a couple of things. The first thing I'd like to reflect on is courage. I suspect, unless you talk to Bapaji or you talk to Wally and others who were around at the time, we would have very little reflection of how difficult it was as an Aboriginal person to stand up in 1963 and to demand and tell people what we needed. What Aboriginal people not wanted, but what they were demanding. It's something we might take for granted today, but I assure you in 1963, I can only imagine how difficult that would have been. It not only set the change of conventions forever in this nation, but it also gave hope. Aboriginal and Islander people around Australia said, if the Yirrkala mob can do this, if the Yirrkala mob can demand to have more of a say about their own land, to be treated with respect about their own country, they can actually ask to have their country back, then it'll be okay for us. It'll be okay for us. And that's what leadership's about. The first step is the toughest. You're on your own, you're taking huge risk, and you're going to come under huge criticism, and they did. But it's down to those leaders that we have almost every convention in Australia has changed. We've had land rights, sometimes slightly different land rights around jurisdiction in Australia. That has led to native title, and that led to the apology, and that has led to a change in culture from Australians. And the Bark Petition is actually stored in Parliament House, and it's not stored away in a library somewhere. It is for view, and it's above that, those who have been to Parliament House, above that lovely pool. And there's a huge glass container, and right in the top of it is the Bark Petition. And every day as I walk past there, I can't get and see it myself because it's surrounded by school kids from all over Australia and from all over the world. And so the influence of the Bark Petition in 1963 influences the young people every day since it's been on show there in Parliament House. And I'd also like to talk briefly about legacy, the legacy that this has left. Every generation changes. It was Bishop Desmond Tutu in Australia, in West Australia, and I, as long as a very young man, went to listen to him. And he gave a rousing speech. And one of the questions from that, he said, Mr. Tutu, do you think that reconciliation will work in Australia? And he stopped for a moment and thought, a very reflective man. Then his answer, which I have to say floored me and many others, he said, look, it's a waste of time. Adults like you will all put on the mantle of tolerance. We will pretend to change the way we are. He said, but every generation really changes. They're the ones who change for the future because they can't pass on intolerance. You can't pass on racism, although we attempt to at times. And I think the legacy from the petitions is just such an important legacy that has affected people not only in Australia, but has shown leadership around the world. Bapaji asked a very important question. What are we going to do in the future? Well, land rights is not something that is fixed at a moment with a pole in the sand. Land rights is a process of developing process to ensure that the full suite of rights that is afforded today continues to grow and continues to get reviewed and gets continually having a different approach. Now, the convention at the moment with mining, Babaji, is that, and you have spoken to me often, as have so many other of the elders in this place, the poison of welfare. And they tell me that if you have an envelope that has money in it and it's got welfare written on the front, it hurts you and your people. And you also tell me the convention of receiving a royalty cheque with no connection with effort sometimes also poisons your people. And if I can reflect on many of the conversations I have had in this place and around Australia, it's the next step of land rights, obviously, is a discussion not about can people, will we have the veto, what will they do on my land? Aboriginal people and Islander people across Australia are rightly demanding that the new way will be, I want a piece of the action. If I want to mine on my land, I'll mine on my land. If trucks drive across this country in the service industry, I want to own them as an Aboriginal person. That should be the new vision. If I can just speak about the final point about legacy. The Coalition have announced, for example, a new North Australian policy. Well, the legacy of the Bark Petition will remind me, who will be a fundamental part, if in government, of the rollout of that policy. That the Bark Petition was there because Aboriginal and Islander people were outside of those discussions. And I'll certainly undertake on behalf of the Coalition, and I hope this is a bipartisan, in fact I know this will be a bipartisan view, that Aboriginal and Islander people in that process won't be on the outside of it, they will be at the centre of the process, because that is the new world order. And if I could just finish in perhaps a slight correction to the Prime Minister. We already have a bipartisan agreement within 12 months of a new Parliament. The committee that I am now part of will put forward some words in a draft to the Australian people to be agreed on. So we are all at one with this. So to those people, their sons and daughters and grandchildren who are involved in the Bark Petition, and the wonderful, wonderful leadership that you have shown and the benefits that have flown from that, thank you very much. And I'm so pleased to be here to celebrate this wonderful day with you. Thank you.